Have you ever wondered if you're more or less rich than other people your same age? Well, in this video, we're going to compare our net worth to the average person in each age bracket and answer that question. But first, let me give you a warning. According to Google AI, comparing wealth can lead to feelings of sadness and other negative emotions, which you probably know if you've seen clips on the internet like this one.
If I made 400 grand a year, I would be embarrassed with myself as a husband, a father, basically as a human being.
And so with crap like this all over social media, it's no wonder people feel so bad and hopeless about their finances. One article from Bloomberg even reported that, quote, feelings of financial insecurity amongst Americans have reached their highest point in a decade, with a third of Americans saying they just don't feel financially secure. So does Mr. Grant Cardone have it right? Is $400,000 a year the baseline, the bare minimum to avoid being financially destitute in 2024? Well, not exactly. First, let's start by explaining what net worth is. Net worth is the difference between your assets, the things you own, and the liabilities, the things you owe. And that's the first mistake people like Grant make. See, income doesn't factor into your net worth equation at all. It actually doesn't matter how much money you make. It only matters how much money you keep, which is why almost 40% of Americans making over $200,000 a year still report living paycheck to paycheck.
What?
And I know that sounds crazy, right? Well, if you make $250,000 a year and you spend $250,000 a year on your rent, your car payments, your credit cards, your fancy vacations, well, you're still ending up with zero cash left over to invest in assets, and thus your net worth will barely change despite that income. Whereas if you're, let's say, a plumber making $80,000 a year, but you have no debts and you save and invest half your income each year, well, your net worth is increasing much faster than Mr. Broke Executive over there. And in the decade I've worked in the financial services industry, I can tell you it is extremely common for teachers and tradesmen to be much richer than executives and doctors for this very reason. So now that we know net worth is the true measure of your wealth, let's calculate yours. First, let's list all of our assets. Assets include anything you own with a value. That'll be your car, your 401k account, any stocks you hold, your home if you have one, things that are yours that have a market value and that you could sell if you needed to. We'll sum up the total of all of these assets. Next, let's list out your liabilities or the debts that you owe. So that'll be all of your credit card debt, your student loans, your car loan, and your mortgage if you have one. Let's total all these liabilities up and we'll subtract them from your asset total. And that's it. That's how we arrive at your net worth number today. Now, before we compare you to others and see how you rank up for your age bracket, I want to clarify that average net worth is really not the right metric to use. That's because a tiny percent of people like the Sam Altmans and the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world are worth billions, and just by existing, they skew the numbers and drive the averages way up. So instead, I'm going to be comparing against the median net worth, which removes the outliers and represents a truly typical person in each age range. Now, let's start with people in their 20s. According to Empower Financial's latest 2024 research for people in their 20s, the median net worth is $6,980, with the top 1% of earners 18 to 24 earning just over $650,000 a year. Now, if you're in your 20s, you're probably either a college student or just starting your career with your first serious job. Trust me, nobody expects you at this age to have any money. Hell, at this age, a lot of people actually have a negative net worth because of student loans and car debt being worth more than the assets they own.
So we said, screw it, declare bankruptcy.
That's you, don't worry, it's not unusual at all. But let's get you on track so you can surpass the median as you approach your 30s. Here are the financial priorities you need to be sticking to in your 20s to set yourself up for long-term financial wealth. First, build an emergency savings fund of 2 to 3 months worth of expenses and keep that in a high-yield savings account. That'll be your rainy day fund for when your car breaks down or when you're between jobs. It's a foundation that'll keep you safe while you build up your assets. Next, pay down all your high-interest debt. Any credit cards or personal loans or even student loans with interest rates over 8% or so need to go before you get investing. Remember, liabilities like debt are a factor in your net worth. By paying down those liabilities, you will increase your net worth just like you would if you invested the money. Third, open up a Roth IRA and contribute as much as you can each year. Roth IRAs are the strongest savings account when you're young because the growth within the account is tax-free. And when you're young, your investments have a whole lot of time to grow. For example, if you're able to start saving just $400 a month in your 20s, you will end up with well over $1.5 million by the time you retire. Whereas if you wait just 10 years into your 30s, you'll get half that amount. So really, this is the best time to start. The earlier the better. Open up a Roth IRA. Even if you can only invest $50 or $100 a month into it, those dollars will exponentially grow by the time you retire. If you cover those bases, you will definitely be in the top percentile of net worth by the time you're in your 30s, and you'll be well equipped to buy property or possibly even retire early if that's on your roadmap. Now let's take a look at the 30s. For people in their 30s, the median net worth is around $35,000, with the top 1% of people aged 30 to 34 being worth just over $2.6 million, and those 34 to 39 going all the way up to $4.7 million. Now, a big driver for the increase in net worth for 30-somethings is retirement savings. While the average retirement account balance in your 20s is about 10 grand, by the 30s that average peaks at about 38,400. Now, while that is a decent start, according to Fidelity, in order to be on track for retirement, we should be aiming to save 3x our annual salary in retirement by the time we hit 40. If we're going to achieve that, you need to make sure you're maximizing your contributions to all your tax advantage accounts. That means you really want to be contributing around 15% of your income into your 401k. You should also still try to max out your Roth IRA each year if you're able. If you have access to an HSA, that's a health savings account, definitely max those contributions too. Now, these are also the years where you're most likely going to consider starting a family and maybe even buying a home. Be extremely careful here to not fall into the trap of spending money you don't have on a home you cannot afford. As a general rule of thumb, you can afford a mortgage that's about 2 to 2.5x your annual income. Understand that a home can be a huge part of your future wealth, as we're going to see with people in their 40s. But if you buy too much of a home, especially with the current interest rates hovering at 7%, you just won't have any money left over to invest with. And all your net worth is going to be tied up in a home, which really will suck when you need to access that money later. We'll get to that. In addition, by your 30s, you really should eliminate all your high and moderate interest debt. Your goal should be to have no credit card debt, no student loans, and really not owe any money except for your mortgage maybe. So just navigate your 30s intelligently. Don't buy too much home, say goodbye to credit card debt forever, and definitely keep contributing to those retirement accounts. Next, let's move to the 40s. Here, the median net worth takes a huge jump up to $126,881, with the top 1% of 40 to 44-year-olds having over $7.8 million in net worth. By the 40s, there are two simple reasons that net worth kind of explodes. First, 401k balances are really maturing, and that snowball effect is well underway, as investments made in the 20s and 30s have had many years to compound. According to Fidelity, the Gen X folk who have been saving for about 15 years have an average 401k balance of $563,400. That's huge, which goes to show just how important it is to keep contributing through your 20s and 30s, because if all you did was only that, you would blow the median net worth out of the water and be much closer to a six-figure net worth in your 40s than the $100,000 we see. But the other factor for this age group is the appreciating home prices. Simply put, if you bought a home in your 30s for, let's say, $400,000 and started off with $50,000 down, well, 10 to 15 years later, that same home is probably worth $600,000 to $700,000, and you might have $200,000 or $300,000 paid off. So home equity at this age is really driving a huge chunk of your net worth. But you really can't let that paper net worth of your home justify expensive spending habits. If you are in your 40s, it's important that you don't fall victim to the whole keeping up with the Joneses things and trying to buy extra cars or go on nicer vacations. It's easy with all this net worth to just blow your disposable income and stop prioritizing wealth accumulation. Instead, while you can start spending a bit of your money and enjoying the fruits of your labor, you also want to continue acquiring more real estate, growing a business if you have one, and ensuring you continue contributing to your retirement account so you can retire as early as possible. Next up, the 50s, with a median net worth of $292,085 and the top 1% at about $13.5 million in net worth. Unfortunately, while that $292,000 net worth might sound like a lot, it's just not enough money to really retire on. According to NASDAQ, even combined with Social Security, that will only generate about $206,053 per month over 25 years. And that's just really not enough to feel safe from quitting your job. So sadly, the median 50-year-old isn't really able to retire. And I think that's why we're seeing so many older people holding on to their homes and working into their 60s and 70s. This is you. You need to consider two things. One, downsize your home and put the profits from the sale into a tax advantage retirement account. And two, really focus on aggressively funneling money into your 401ks and your Roths if those make sense for your tax situation. It's really a shame because almost everybody has the potential to reach their 50s with millions in net worth. I mean, imagine if the median 50-year-old had been saving in their retirement accounts from their 30s or 20s. Imagine if instead of owning just one property, they had saved up and purchased 2 or 3 or 4 rental properties that were giving them a monthly rental income. I mean, any of those decisions completely changes what your life looks like for the next 40 to 50 years. You could either be stuck working a job you don't even like into your 60s and 70s because you can't afford to retire, or you could be living out your dreams and traveling to a different country every year for the next 25 years. That's all to say, if you're young and you're watching this right now, take this advice. You don't want to be the median 50-year-old. You want to save and invest now so you get to this age with the net worth you need to live comfortably. That said, a piece of advice for those who are in their 50s, fully pay off your primary residence if you haven't already. That'll eliminate your mortgage, which is the biggest expense in your budget, and really give you huge flexibility in your lifestyle when you do decide to retire. And now to close things out are the 60s, where the median net worth is $454,489, and the top 1%ers are worth about $17.8 million in net worth. Here's the problem. According to Financial Samurai, 97% of the median household's net worth at this age consists of the value of their primary residence. For those 60-something-year-olds who really only have a home and a tiny 401k account to their name, the majority of their net worth is not accessible to them unless they take equity out of their homes, they pay penalties, they take on a second mortgage, etc. So the median 60-year-old just can't afford to retire. There's not enough money there to pay their expenses, even with Social Security.
I'm never going to retire now.
Now, if you're younger and you're watching, you need to be aware that Social Security is likely going to be insolvent by the year 2035, which means people retiring after that can expect to receive maybe 80% of their full benefits instead of the full 100%. So while the median 60-year-olds might be in pretty rough shape today, the future 60-year-olds are going to have it especially bad because they won't be able to depend on Social Security to cover their lack of retirement savings. So we've got a real crisis coming up for millennials and Gen Z because retirement is just going to be a much harder goal for us than it is for the boomers and Gen Xers today. Ultimately, the median net worths across every age band are actually much lower than they should be. I mean, across the board, Americans aren't saving enough for retirement. They aren't cutting back on expenses enough, and they definitely aren't diversifying their assets to really protect their future. The only way for you to achieve wealth and financial freedom is to make smart financial decisions starting today. That means you need to be contributing to your retirement accounts, aggressively paying down and avoiding debt, and making sure you save your income and use that money to buy assets. That's the name of the game. If you could save up 60, 70, or 80% of your take-home pay and put that in down payment on rental properties, increase stock investments, maybe some crypto, then you're going to be in fantastic shape going into your 40s and 50s, and then definitely going to be fine going into retirement. That said, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know in the comments down below. Are you on track for being able to retire? If not, here's another video that might help you cut back on some expenses and save more of your income towards building wealth. And until next time, peace.